Monday, December 9th, and it is about 6:31. So we'll start the regular board meeting of East Bay Charter Township. If you will join me in beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll do roll call.
Lyle.
Here.
Bartlett.
Here.
S. Cortade. Here. M. Cortade.
Here.
Walters.
Present.
Friend.
Here.
And it's noted that Cook is absent and excused.
Okay, very good. With that, we'll move on to agenda review of conflict. So on our agenda, we do have a couple things under consent calendar that are Board of Review appointments, Beach District Implementation Team, Tart Trail 3-mile trail payment, next year's township board meetings, dates and times. Under regular business, we have a rural readiness grant application, a resolution of support for that. We have the fiscal year 2025 budget, and included with that are the resolutions for the budget, the General Appropriation Act, wages, and fees. And we also have a Board of Public Works appointment and Election Commission appointments. Is there any conflict of interest by any board member? Seeing none declared, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda or any suggested changes?
So moved.
Is there support? Okay, there's a motion by Lyle and support by Bartlett. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, we have an agenda, and we'll move forward. This is public comment. It's the first opportunity for public comment. So if anyone would like to make public comment, they can come to the podium, say hello, and let us know your perspective. You're welcome to introduce yourselves for your teachers if you would like to, or you can just sit there. Okay. Exactly. All right, so seeing no public comment, we'll move on to correspondence and report. You do have some correspondence in your packet. You have the County Road Commission updates that we've received, the Regional Economic Ecosystem Report from Traverse Connect. You have an update on the Michigan Center for Rural Health, EMS, recruitment grant that East Bay Ambulance is participating in. You have the clerk's update and Board of Canvassers and the supervisor's meeting log. Any questions on any of the correspondence and reports? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. And we will ask I'll have you go over the consent agenda first there, Ann.
It's a big one. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent agenda, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. Okay, we've got the November 18th, 2024 special meeting minutes, the November 21st, 2024 special meeting minutes, recommend approval. From the general fund, check numbers 19109 through 19206, the amount of $499,864.61, with check number 19502 previously approved. The emergency fund, check numbers 5766 through 5798, in the amount of $161,626.33. Receiving fund, check numbers 2957 through 2957, that was one check, $67,704.17. The escrow fund, check numbers 2045 through 2048, for $10,364.77. One check, number 119, from the Roads SAD Fund, and that was for $5,884.38. Lots of payrolls, November 3rd through the 16th, check number 7835 through 7839, totaled $70,967.84. A payroll on November 22nd, check number 7840 through 7841, totaled $777.18. of payroll on November 27th, check number 7842 through 7881, totaled $34,729.40. November 29th, 2024, payroll totaled $769.58, and that was a correction to paramedic pay. And on November 17th through November 30th, check number 7883 through 7884 totaled $76,702.83. Total payroll, $183,946.83, and total amount paid, $929,391.09. No budget adjustments, and there were other items. The Board of Review appointments, Resolution 24, I think that'll be 26. Beach District Implementation Team appointments, TART 3 Mile Trail payment, and a 2025 Township Board meeting dates and times resolution, which will be 24-27.
Okay, actually, we do have some budget amendments. They are on your desk tonight, and they are not numbered individually. This is using a different way of showing this that BSNA has. We can take these off and put them elsewhere if you like, but they are pretty much just going through and making sure that our departments aren't going to hit that our budget is over individual departments, because we adopt the budget by department. And also they're taking into consideration, if you look at it and say, well, that department looks pretty good, it may be because when you pull out the personnel or the capital, it affects it because of how we adopt our budget. So with that, we do have these budget amendments that are presented here. Is there anything that any member of the board would like to remove?
Number 3, the chart trail.
Okay. All right. And is everybody fine with putting these presented budget amendments on as the budget amendments? Okay. Okay. So we'll put the presented budget amendments. All right. Would anybody, anything else removed, or anything from the public to be removed? Okay, we'll bring that back for a motion, which would be on the consent agenda with the 2 minutes, the checks as Ann has reviewed them. With the Board of Review appointments would be Resolution 2024-26, the Beach District Implementation Team appointments, and also the board meeting dates and times, which would be Resolution 24-27. Is there a motion for those items?
So the budget amendments went on the consent.
Yep,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was following.
yep.
I will make that motion to accept the consent agenda with the Resolution 2024-26 and 24-27, and to remove the TART Trail payment and include the budget resolution, or budget amendments.
Yep. Is there a second? Support?
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Bartlett and support by Walters. Any further discussion? And we'll take a roll call vote.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Lyle.
No.
M. Cortade.
No.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. With that, we will proceed to the business before the Township Board. Rural Readiness Resolution of Support. Claire Carner is here. She's been working on this grant. And Claire, if you want to take us through what we are applying for and the resolution of support, which would be Resolution 28.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. So this is for a township-wide non-motorized plan. And if you recall, we did apply for a similar plan to the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. We were unsuccessful with that application. But this rural readiness grant opportunity is through the Office of Rural Prosperity. So we submitted a letter of inquiry. They invited us to submit a full application. And so really this non-motorized plan would kind of serve two purposes. One is that our new zoning ordinance requires that developers build sidewalk pathway along their right-of-way. So this will help us be really kind of consistent and strategic in terms of like exactly what facilities we want, so that whatever they're building is consistent throughout that length of roadway. The second piece is just as we continue to work on some of these more proactive planning projects and working with the road commission as they're upgrading roads and getting pathways, it allows us to kind of figure out what the community is really, what areas the community is wanting from a non-motorized connection standpoint. So it's going to have a lot of public engagement, we anticipate, and so this, we're requesting $50,000 from Office of Rural Prosperity. They require a match, so we're looking at 10% match, cash match from the township, and then we're also documenting to them that we're providing $12,900 in in-kind match, and that's through staff time over the duration of the project. So the application was actually due today, so it's already been submitted, but we asked them if we could follow up with a letter or with a resolution of support from the township board, since we weren't meeting in that 2-week window that they gave us to submit the full application.
Okay, very good, thank you. Does anybody have any questions on this resolution of support for Claire?
Question, how much percentage do we have to put in?
We are required to do 20%.
20%.
Yeah. So in talking with them, they are definitely looking at, like, kind of from an equity standpoint, and so they're looking at rural areas. We're not quite as rural as some of the other applicants, and we're also, our area median income is higher than kind of some of the other rural areas. So we, just in talking with the grant coordinator, we thought it would be more competitive if we did that 20% all cash match and then showed some additional match.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
I guess just one. Are there other options if they do not select us for this grant funding, or where would we be if they do not?
Yeah, good question. So with that, my health endowment application, they didn't fund us last year, but we were followed up with the grant coordinator, and they told us to please apply again. So it seemed like we were kind of right on the cusp and that they were interested in the project. We just didn't end up making that. So they asked us to submit a letter of interest this January for that grant, so that's another option for.
Now, if we get this grant, we'll be using that application in January for a different part. We'll be taking a look at an area that the road commission is planning on improving a road. We'll be looking at having some engineering done for multimodal transportation to go with that project. So we have something else in place if we won't let an opportunity go to waste, so to speak. So, any other questions? Yep.
Did you talk to the grant coordinators at all about, this is a max of 50,000? Are they trying to do a bunch of them at 25,000, or does the 50,000, is that what they're seeing, all of them kind of
That's
thing?
a good question, and I hadn't really discussed it with them, but looking at other, like, budgets for non-motorized plan, like the $60,000 was kind of at the lower end in terms of like with the process we're trying to put together.
Some of
Good
these,
question.
yeah, and some of these grants too, I'm not sure if this one is, I haven't heard of this one before this, have come out of like new departments that have been created with the state. The rural component that's been new with Sarah Lucas, and also out of ARPA money too. So sometimes not as much history with some of them. I don't know if there is with this one.
This one is new, just because Office of Rural Prosperity is fairly new, but in one of the webinars we were on for this grant, my understanding is that now that we're an MPO, I think starting next year, we're no longer going to be eligible for this grant. So.
Okay, other questions or a motion for resolution 2024-27? Nope, 28.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-28, the rural readiness grant application.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, motion by Walters and support by M. Cortate. Any further discussion? Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortate.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
S. Cortate.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. All right, very good, thank you. Claire, thank you for taking the initiative on that and getting that done. It was a really well-done grant application. Okay, with that, we will move on to the public hearing for the fiscal year 2025 budget. It is 6:47, and at this time, I will open the public hearing for public comment on the fiscal year 2025 budget. If anybody has any comments on the budget, just please make your way to the podium and let us know your thoughts. And for those of us following along in the packet, this starts on page 66. Page 66 of the packet.
Thank you.
Okay. Just making sure there's no request for public comment during this public hearing. If there is, let me know. Okay, seeing none, it is 6:48, and we will close the public hearing for the fiscal year 2025. We'll just go over it again. I mentioned that it begins on page 66. It's kind of the overview, gives you a pretty good rundown when it was initially presented to the board on October 14th. It was gone over, then we discussed the budget on the 12th and the 18th. As mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, integrated in this agenda item is the resolution for officer salaries, the resolution for fiscal year 2025 wages, and a resolution for fees, licenses, and permits. The salaries, there are 4 resolutions there, so that would be 29, 30, 31, and 32.
You want to do the general appropriations resolution first?
Yeah, well, oh, yep, we sure will. So we'll go, so the general appropriations will be 29. The salaries, officer salaries will be 30 through 33. The wages will be 34. And the fees, licenses, and permits would be 35. Thank you for that. So with that, we'll start off with, in the budget, what has been changed between these times when we've discussed it. You can see those are outlined from the October 14th into the next meeting. There was a $40,000 increase in the revenues, a wage adjustment for a deputy clerk and deputy treasurer, $20,000 for server transition to the cloud, a movement for Department 621 from 5,000 to take that into Department 702. And then let's see, at that point I had added the Grace McDonald and Arbutus Lake to show you the impact on the budget. And then after those meetings and what is before you today, we'll have $2,500 in additional for Department 262, $425, that's the several projects, but the 2 line items for Department 751 removed. And then when I did that for a net zero budget, I just took the additional $104,814 that would have been the revenues over expenditures and put those into a contingency. I did that because when I had heard conversation of the board, I understood that you were interested in the parks projects, but you wanted to see more specific information. So I'm sure during the year they'll be coming to you with those, plus potentially, additional things can always be utilized from the contingency fund. But that can be obviously changed, but that's the only new thing that you hadn't specified. And that brings you to a zero balance budget with Fund 101. Let's see. The budget columns that you'll see, the Budget Workshop 1, 2025 Budget Workshop 1, those are those numbers that are reflected all of those changes. And so it is proposed that those would be adopted as the 2025 approved budget numbers. As Sue mentioned, we have the General Appropriations Act resolution approving that here. This is the one that we see every year. It talks about different requirements with the General Appropriations Act. It also talks about what the revenues and the estimated expenditures are for the statutory budgets, and also adoption by cost center. So this is where we have some latitude. Our township board adopts by cost center rather than line item, which very few people do, and when most people do, they probably regret it because it's very cumbersome. But we do have some restrictions even when we do adopt it by cost center. We can transfer, but only within $1,000 for things that are personnel or capital, and they may not be used to adjust wages. We also have a limitation of $5,000 between departments. So those are just kind of the an overview of the document that you see every year. And then in your attachments, it breaks out those specifics that are by the department. Again, in your packet, you have information on the COLA and the CPI, which is a 2.5 this year with the Social Security. And then that takes us to the next set of resolutions. So with that, is there discussion or a motion on Resolution 2024-29, which would be the resolution approving the fiscal year 2025 General Appropriations Act?
Question on the parks.
Sure.
On capital improvement, Grace McDonald reviewed this.
Yep, what page are you, could you tell us what page that is on the packet?
3461.
3461, okay. Hold on one second. And that would be page 129 of the total packet. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, that's fine. It's the page number of the
They've got,
budget.
Any bids, or do they have anything drawn up of what they want to do with these two parks?
Of the Grace McDonald?
Grace McDonald?
So this isn't in the budget, because remember, we're on the next column, which is the 2025 budget workshop.
Well, I thought you would put it back in here.
Nope,
You said the 400,000, or did I miss?
So when you first saw it, it was not in there because I wanted you to have a balanced budget.
Right.
But I also didn't want to not bring to you what the Parks Commission had, so I did put it in before we saw it the next time. And then we discussed it, and you guys said, hey, we'd rather see specific things, so that is pulled out.
Okay.
And you can see that in
Okay,
that.
I misunderstood you. I
Yep.
thought that we put it back in again.
Yep.
Or they had asked to have it put back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will go to the Parks Commission meeting next week and just tell them that, you know, you guys are very supportive of projects, but you just want to take it piece by piece and see specific projects with, you know, associated costs.
I misread the remove, it said not. the
That's okay.
751. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. Any other questions?
I have a question about the opioid settlement. I'm on page 72 and 73 of the packet.
Sure.
So the revenues are 0, but we're gonna spend 8,524.
Yes, so the opioid settlement comes in whenever they settle cases. We don't really have much control over that. As a matter of fact, I think we've had a few more settlements come in than we even anticipated. We're not getting a tremendous amount. And then the expenditures, we haven't made those yet because they have to do certain things. They have to hit certain criteria, similar to the ARPA funding. We have some ideas on those with that limited funding, but we need to clear those just with taking a look at the requirements, and I probably will reach out to Grand Traverse County because they're doing a lot of this with a much larger budget. And then we're looking at spending those funds next year.
We received them this year.
So basically with
It's
a,
really a fund balance from
It
this
is.
year being spent
Right.
next year.
that's
Okay,
right.
I just want to double check that.
Yep, and if you'll notice in the hearing notification for the budget, it says there are like two funds there with a planned fund balance spend, and that's one of them. Yep.
I just want to double check that.
Nope, good question. Okay, are there other questions, or is there a motion for Resolution 2024-29?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-29, the resolution approving the fiscal year 2025 General Appropriations Act.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Walters, support by Lyle. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Walters.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
No.
Bartlett.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. All right, very good, thank you. With that, we will move on to the, keep me straight here, guys, counting on you, with the resolutions establishing township officers' salary. Those, as I mentioned, will be 30, 31, 32, and 33. These salaries are adjusted by the 2.5% COLA that we've identified, and they are a standard resolution from there. Is there a motion for Resolution 2024-30, which would be the supervisor's salary at $77,425?
I make a motion to approve the supervisor's salary as presented.
Support?
Okay, there's a motion by Bartlett and supported by Walters. Further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes, very good, thank you. We'll move on to the next one, which will be, I just flipped the page, can you believe that? Not to the right one. And this will be Resolution 2024-31. This is the resolution establishing the township officer salary for the clerk. Again, it is the 2.5%, and it is $73,421. Is there a motion for this resolution?
I make a motion to approve the clerk's salary at $73,421.
Is there support?
Support?
Motion is made by Bartlett, supported by Walters. Is there any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
No.
S. Cortade.
No.
Friend.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to Resolution 2024-32. This is for the treasurer's salary, and it is identical to the clerk's, and it is for $73,421 based on the 2.5% COLA. Is there a motion for Resolution 2024-32?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 2024-32.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, the motion is made by Walters and support by M. Cortade. Is there further discussion? And we'll do a roll call vote.
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle. And Friend.
Yes. So we are to the Resolution 2024-33, which is a resolution establishing the township officer's salary for trustee. It is at $8,427, again, accelerated by the 2.5% COLA. Is there a motion for this resolution?
Make a motion to approve the the resolution 2024-33 for the trustee's salary at $8,427.
Is there support?
Support?
Motion is made by Bartlett, supported by Walters. Is there further discussion? Okay, we'll do another roll call vote. Ann?
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. With that, we come to the annual resolution that we began doing a few years ago, which sets the wages. This would be Resolution 2024-34, resolution establishing the fiscal year 2025 wages. It does have an appendix, an attachment, and you have those items there. I will tell you, a couple things have been tweaked here, and let me point those out to you. One, I did on Department 262, Sue had asked that those be just pulled for right now, so just a note's been in there that those aren't being adjusted at this time. And again, as this note Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry, except on the 25 wage.
Oh, yep, I'm so
column,
sorry.
You're adjusted.
I took out the 2.5% and it slipped my mind to go back and change that.
Okay.
So I most certainly will change that, and you can consider this resolution that you're looking for having the same number in the 2024 and 2025 column. My apologies on that. But again, when we could go to change those, this can be amended mid-year, as we've said before. So, and then the other thing was, yes, Nick caught me on something. I had made an error. When we took a look at the emergency services budget, and I have it pulled up here, the overview sheet that was for East Bay Ambulance, and I apologize, I meant to print these out for you, that was in the packet for August, but you've seen it before. I'm sorry, that was in the packet in November. This is approved already. It said wages are planned to be increased due to COLA and market adjustment that will help keep East Bay Ambulance competitive in the ever-changing employment market. Any specific wage or cost of living adjustments will be presented with the township's annual resolution of wages, which they are. Wage line items include, and this is talking about his budget, a 10% adjustment. We included 10% in that East Bay Ambulance to cover any COLA, and we have plus or minus 3%, and or industry adjustment plus or minus 7. So when I did this, I had in my head, okay, we've got 7% with East Bay Ambulance, and put that as 5% and 2.5%. And Nick did call me on that and said, hey, that industry adjustment is supposed to be 7% there for the paramedics, not for the EMTs, but for the paramedics. So that is adjusted in here, and you'll see that. It's on the bottom two lines, bottom line, second to the bottom on the second one. So that is fixed. And again, I will fix the 2025 on the departments at 262 as well. But from there, I'm trying to think if there weren't any other changes.
I don't see the medical director on here. Are they just considered paramedic?
No, he's right there.
651 director. It's right above paramedic on the bottom.
The first attachment,
First page.
So on page 87?
86.
86.
Ah, there you go. Okay, too many pages. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, with that,
I have a question.
sure.
So you've got 2.5 and 2.5, and you're calling that 5, but if you do 2.5 and 2.5, you get a different number than if you just do straight 5. So is it really 5? Are we adding those, or is it really 2.5 and 2.5?
I added them and did 5%.
Okay. So with the paramedic, it's 9.5%?
In buildings and grounds.
Yeah, I was just, yeah.
Unless you want to do different salaries for two different.
No.
I thought that would be
Let us do whatever the board determines.
pretty much a payroll nightmare.
Yes.
And really, honestly, that rate is competitive and for grounds as well, too, so. Okay, with that, is there a motion for Resolution 2024-34?
I would make a motion to accept Resolution 24-34 with the,
2025 wages for
Yeah.
Department 262 corrected.
yes.
Yep, gotcha. Is there support for that?
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Bartlett and support by M. Cortade. Any further discussion? Okay, Ann, we'll do a roll call vote.
Bartlett.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
No,
Friend.
Yes. Okay, very good, thank you. We move on to the 2025 fees, licenses, and initial escrow. And Claire, thank you for staying here. If anyone has any questions, you will note in here, though, Claire provided an overview of the items that have been changed since we last met. Tell me if I capture these correctly or not, Claire, but the transient activity permit, the Planning Commission has been taking a look at, and there was a recommendation motion to move that from 30 to 250 based on the substantive time that is taking for planning and zoning to review those, get in touch with the, make sure that all of the other agencies are updated, notified, and have approved them and so forth. And then there had been a proposal for a $500 short-term rental fee, and we went back and looked at that, and we are recommending $450. And that goes back to, we took a look at the expenses, including the contract with GovOS. We took a look at the revenues, and we took a look at the fund balance, and we also took a look at the years that we've done this. We've kept track of what we should be hitting that 230 fund for. That has been actually hitting on often the general fund, because we didn't have 230 set up for quite a bit at the beginning, and we have kept track of that. Plus, I know the board initially, when we had the first short-term rental license, and I think it was a good move to keep some funds there in case we ever face a lawsuit with short-term rentals, that we're able to cover those initial fees. So with that, we looked at it and came up with the 450, which is $50 less than what was recommended at the previous meeting. And let's see, were there any more, Claire, or that was pretty much it? Okay, so with that, this would be, we'll take any questions on it or comments, but it would also be Resolution 35 for the updating the cost of permits, application fees, licenses, and initial escrow.
I have a comment.
Sure.
With regards to the transient activity fee, Claire did look at our neighboring communities and what they're doing for those fees, and it's a swing between different communities. And so we kind of, it didn't even go in the middle. I believe we're at a quarter of what some of our local are doing, but again, we're much higher than some of our neighbors as well. So I think that, that's where we came up with, we really talked about, okay, what does it cost to do this? And that kind of thing. So I think that 250 is a good number. But we always want to look at what our neighbors are doing, and we are on the bottom half of what the costs are, if you will, but I think it's still reasonable.
I think it's a good compromise, knowing what staff puts into it, knowing some of their costs, and as you said, knowing what other places are doing as well. Any other comments or questions?
So the line that says after the fact permit, fee doubled, but there's no fee for tree removal. So do they have, I think they have to get a permit for tree removal, right?
Yeah, that's something that we've talked with our legal counsel, and it's not really a permit. Like, the tree removal isn't necessarily a permit. It's not something that we like to see. In terms of paying fees for tree removal, that really would come through the enforcement process. And so if we're issuing citations, which we have in the past, that's generally where the fee is coming from, because it's more of a penalty than a general thing that happens. So the tree removal, it's really kind of our way of documenting what somebody's looking to do, and they provide us with a plan, and so it's not so much like a permit per se, just because it's not really spelled out in our ordinance that the trees are to be removed. It's just if there's a, extenuating circumstance for various reasons.
So it'd be more of a citation as,
We will issue a citation if they're removed without permission, and so,
Okay.
yeah.
Just curious, because I'm like, we're not doubling anything there, so.
Yeah. Okay, good question, thank you. Any other questions or a motion?
35.
It is 35.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-35, the resolution updating the fiscal year 2025 cost of permits, applications, fees, licenses, and initial escrow.
Is there support? Okay, there's a motion by Walters and support by Bartlett for Resolution 2024-35. Any further discussion? And we'll do a roll call vote on that.
Walters.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, now keep me on track. Do we have everything done here for the budget? I think that we do. We have the wage resolutions, or salary resolutions, wage resolution, licenses, fees, and the General Appropriations Act. So we should be good, correct? All right, we will move on to next item on the agenda, which is the Board of Public Works appointment. And thank you to Tracy for pointing out I had an error on the resolution. So this is, and I didn't know how the board wanted to handle this. Normally, I would put this on a consent calendar. Sue and I were talking about this earlier, but Peninsula Township had suggested to the other townships at a recent meeting how they had structured theirs. We've done some things like this before, so we can do it either way. Does not matter to me. You see the bylaws excerpt on the composition of the Board of Public Works. You also see the current board members with the expiration dates. And then you'll see a resolution, two resolution options. One which sets the appointment at the current supervisor as the position. And then that can just be a rolling resolution that the County Board of Commissioners can use unless it's revoked. Or the other choice is one that specifically appoints myself as the current supervisor. Either is perfectly fine, but this would be resolution, 36? Okay. Resolution 36. Is there a preference?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, I read this that said, Garfield prefers their supervisor, and I'm just wondering, the way they're set up now, you got a supervisor, and I don't know how often they show up. They show up at the meetings, but you got a manager that's day to day, and I'm just wondering how that's gonna work out, because my thought was that, does it make a lot of sense to appoint the supervisor that maybe is only there part-time and maybe doesn't have full understanding of what's going on? My concern.
Yeah. God, I hope I have a full understanding because we're doing an $11 million sewer project. But, so, yeah, no, good point. Garfield Township obviously has a path that we haven't chosen and has
Or
the.
anybody else.
Yeah, well, and that's fine. They haven't made their appointments yet. So I think they're doing that this week. Yeah, they're doing that this week. And, I've asked what they're doing, and I get different answers depending on who you speak with. I know that their managers attended the meetings as public, the last one, because there's only been one since he's started his tenure as the manager. So, and then at the BPW meetings, the new supervisor has been to those, so I'm not sure. It's
I mean,
kind of
I personally think that the full-time supervisor should be the one that's at the Board of Public Works, but I just don't know what's gonna happen with this new path that's been taken.
yeah, and honestly, that's their township,
Yeah,
not
I
ours.
think we get to have a say in that.
Yeah,
Well, I just,
It's conversation, but I don't think we get to have a say.
yeah. And whichever one it is, I'm sure they'll become, well-versed in a short period of time. And so, who knows? But this too, if this township were ever to go with a manager, this could be revoked as well. The first option, it would just be revoked and then replaced with a different resolution. So either would be fine. But is there a motion for Resolution 2024-36, and then just define which resolution you would be moving, would it be the one on page 163 or the one on page 165?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-36, appointment to the Board of Public Works on page 163 of 171 of the board packet.
Okay, and I will make that note where Tracy told me there was a typo in it. You'll see where it says resolved by the Board of Review. We will change that. It will be resolved by the East Bay Township Board.
I'll support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Walters and support by Bartlett. Further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, wait, I was looking at the
Yes.
page numbers. Walters and Bartlett. Okay, Walters.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
And Friend.
Yes. We will have lots of resolutions to do and sign after tonight's meeting. Okay, with that, we will move on to the Election Commission appointments. And Sue?
Thank you. Every four-year term, we look at the election commission members as a charter. We are obligated to have 2 trustees and the clerk. I did provide that information. An email was sent to all 4 trustees asking that they respond if they had interest in serving. And both trustee Walters and trustee Lyle have voiced interest in serving. So my recommendation is to approve the appointment of trustee Walters and trustee Lyle to the election commission board.
Okay, is that a motion?
Sure.
Is there support?
Support.
Is there further discussion? Okay, there is a motion to approve Mindy Walters and Glenn Lyle to the Election Commission. I'm sorry, did you say what term length that was?
It is 2024 through 2028. It's concurrent with the term of
Sure.
our trustees.
Okay, thank you. With that, is there any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, thank you very much. With that, we will go to excuse me, 1 second, election, 3 Mile Trail payment, and that comes off the consent calendar. Does anybody put their finger on the page number that's on?
It out.
52.
Well, very good. Thank you. There's a cookie waiting for both of you in the kitchen as a prize.
I was like, I will lose that.
Yeah, so this has to do with the Tart Trail commitment that we have of $1 million, and this just seeks to alter the motion of the payment, just tweak it a little bit much. We have a couple options. The way that it was directed in the motion, it was very specific that we would do $250,000 a year. And I am recommending to the board that they consider doing $1 million allocation and that we just hold those funds until the time that they're needed. And the chart just shows you kind of a financial rationale for doing that. And it may come to the point too where, they ask for that and they might ask for it, as it increased with interest. I don't know, but I don't want to, knock on wood, this doesn't happen, but, we could give $250,000 this year, $250,000 next year, and then TART disappears or something, and I would hate to see that happen. It just makes it difficult. I'd rather do that $1 million payment when it's ready to go. And again, at that point, we can talk about, well, is it 101.1 based on the interest or whatever? We can have that discussion then, but at least now it will be sitting with us and collecting interest until they are ready for that payment. Did you have a specific question on it?
No, it's a $1 million question, so I just wanted to make sure we were clear. No, I agree with you. I don't see, when the board approved that, it's a $12.5 million project, and they hadn't raised but $1 million already, or a little more. I don't know where they're at now, and you're right. How many years down the road before they'll actually need the funds?
Right.
And at that time, who knows? Maybe they'll change their mind and decide that the project's gone from 12.5 to 20 million, and we just don't want to do it.
Or it's 15 million and they have a angel donor and they don't need the million, who knows?
That's right. There's all kinds of
knows?
scenarios, and
Yeah.
but I agree. I think we should hold the money until they absolutely need it.
And wish us good wishes and safe travels tomorrow because we'll be at the DNR Trust Fund. We have 2 applications in with them for these 2 segments of trails. And, we'll also be, meeting with some people on some potential funding down there for the project. So hoping for good luck and good weather, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you just want consensus, or do you want a motion?
I think let's go, because the motion was so specific before, let's go ahead and have the motion. I tried to word it. If anyone would like to make the consent agenda motion. Move to approve committing with the previously approved $1 million in 3-mile trail funding to a committed fund balance and remove the requirement to pay for the commitment in increments of $250,000 per year over the next 4 years to begin in the 2024 fiscal year. Okay, I guess I made that motion, and it's supported. Is there further discussion? Yes.
Do we need to add in there that something that we're not going to pay more than 250,000? Any, yeah, not to exceed
Well, I think
whatever's available in that.
we made
Well-
$1 million allocation, so I think that $1 million allocation stands. And are you concerned about what, it's not identified? I mean, we already have $1 million allocation. This motion isn't changing that $1 million
No,
allocation.
no, I'm talking
It's
about
only-
that, what we were saying that we were going to do it $250,000 a year.
But we're only doing it as
After
they
they have the
actually
bill.
need
But
it.
if they have, in the year 2, they have 600,000, and we've only said we're gonna allocate 500,000, I don't wanna allocate 600,000, I only wanna allocate the 500,000.
So, again, this is $1 million allocation to that project. This doesn't do anything but remove the requirement of $250 a year, okay? So, if we were to make a payment, it would have to come through and be board approved in the first place anyway. See what I'm saying? $1 million check does not get written without this going through a board, in our approval of our payments. So this motion does nothing but remove that $250 a year requirement. The motion for allocation of $1 million stands.
Don't we approve payments after they've been made now?
Not for that level of money. I think we have it at 10,000. It comes back here, unless it's an approved project where you have approved, like the vendor. Like you have a contract to approve Station 9 dorms, or you have a contract to approve Arbutus.
Okay.
Yep.
Are we collecting 5% now on it?
No,
What are we-
5% is not around anymore.
What are we at normally?
I can't remember on that. I mean, I put $1 million in a separate bank, a new bank, and I can't remember what the rate was this,
But it isn't 5%.
no.
And
It's I want to say it might be 4.6,
Still not
something
bad.
like that.
Yeah.
And sorry, I didn't get all the statements in time to get it into the
That's okay.
board packet.
Yeah,
We-
no, I'm just curious if.
Yeah, 5%'s gone now. It was really nice while it lasted.
I know I've,
Can I just ask a question? Are you concerned that they would attach interest since we've changed how we were getting?
No, I'm
it?
concerned that they're gonna come in for the $1 million at year 2 and say, here's our bills for $1 million, kind of thing. Does it really matter since we have $1 million sitting in the bank account allocated for this? Maybe not, but the whole intent was that we weren't spending $1 million in 1 year for a project, so that's just what I'm thinking, like year 2 or year 3, if all the, being very optimistic here, I know that, but,
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to change it as well too, because it doesn't, the $250 a year, We didn't need to do that because we have that money in fund balance, and I'd like to keep that in fund balance, maintaining that interest, and then pay it at the appropriate time.
Because they may not need it for 3 years.
Or 7.
Right. And so
Yep.
otherwise, we'd be giving them,
We'd
you know,
front-load the project.
$750,000, and they'd have the interest.
And I talked with Julie Clark about this ahead of time. She completely understands, and I did tell her, I said, Julie, that's not to say, you know, if we, let's just say this is an accurate representation. It won't be. There's a million other scenarios out there. But I said, that's not to say, you know, you couldn't say, well, we could use the 100,000 in funding gap, you made 215 in interest. I said, we can absolutely worry about all that later. We'll see how much it is, what the interest is, and what the level of need is at that point. So, I'm not saying that what, I'm just saying it can,
Just my-
that's not part of what I was
Yeah.
doing here.
Right.
So, okay, we did have a motion?
Yep.
By Friend, support by Escorted.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, motion passes. I believe we're at second public comment. Am I missing any agenda item? I don't believe so. All right, we are at the second public comment. We have you out of here in an hour. That is.
know.
Yeah.
We really should, I'm not so sure you should get credit for this meeting. I mean,
Partial credit, have to come back again.
that's right, that's right. Is there any public comment tonight? Okay, without any public, and any of us, the 6 of us, are happy to sign your paperwork, so good to go. And then the upcoming meeting date, I did not put that on here, but it will be, I will be scheduling the last week, don't go crazy, but a special meeting in case we do need any amendments coming in the last minute. We did this last year, we did not need it, we canceled it, good to go. So we will be scheduling that towards the very end of the year, that special meeting, but our regular board meeting in January, will be next January, the 8th of January. 13, what? Yeah, 8th and 13th.
Oh, you're right. I'm on
Did you stay in
24.
2024?
I'm on 24. It is the 13th. I
Too close to his
apologize.
birthday.
Yeah. He wants to make
On one of
sure.
these pieces of paper.
All right, so
Once in
it'll
a
be
while, a guy
January.
Gotta get right, you know?
It'll be January 13th. And so with that, everybody have a Merry Christmas, great holiday. Enjoy your New Year's Eve
You
and your
too.
New Year's Day, okay? Are there any objections to being adjourned? All right, then we stand adjourned. Have a good night.
Are we gonna have the test for the young lady now?
We are. Do you know, I'd like you to recite the statutory duties of the trustees, please.
Oh, trustees, well, that's a pretty short list.